in just a little bit. And also the Immortal. This is actually one of my favorite units in StarCraft 2. It is a beast. It is meant for kind of anti-siege. It's kind of an anti-siege unit. And we'll cover that in just a minute. For now, I do have an observer that is ready to fly around, and you'll see it does kind of go around with its kind of weird, I don't know, it looks like kind of dreadlocks flying around in a way. So we will just say that this observer is Jamaican, and my Jamaican impression is terrible, so I'm just going to leave it to your imagination. However, you will see that this observer is stealthed, and it is also a detector, as it does have those two little abilities right there. They are both passive abilities, not anything you're going to have to worry about. So to the opponent, they really won't see this unless they're paying attention, and if they do see anything, it'll be kind of a little distortion of the light of the as it passes over the ground. So something to keep an eye out for if you're ever playing against a Protoss player. If you see a little distortion of light kind of randomly flying around your base, that is most likely one of these, an observer, and you will need to get some sort of stealth detection to find it. I'm going to go ahead and set you right here. Alright, so now we have the Warp Prism. Like I said earlier, this is kind of the transport for the Protoss in StarCraft 2. I'm going to go ahead and catch these spazzy guys here, load them up, and you'll see that their space is a little bit kind of fluctuating. Bigger units take up more space, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and select this probe, and you'll see that it takes up 1, whereas these units take up 2. I'm going to drop you out because you weigh entirely too much. And we'll just go ahead and drop down here and unload. And oh my god, it transport the transports. Who would have thought it? Okay, so that's all well and dandy. But where the Warp Prism really shines is its special ability called phasing mode. And this transforms the Warp Prism into a pylon, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And bam! It is now sort of a portable pylon field thingy. And this can come in handy because if you can't, let's say, let's go ahead and pack this up here. Let's send this up to the non-existent enemy base. Hopefully the penguin won't mind too terribly much that we're invading his stuff here. Doody-doo-doo-doo, flying over the map. Oh, somebody actually mentioned it earlier. Yes, this is a map that I made. It's called Serenity Isle. It's something I did during the downtime between Phase 1 and Phase 2. It's a 1v1 map. Pretty cool. It was actually one of the first maps I worked on. I had a lot of fun with it. But anyways, the Warp Prism is now here in the fake enemy's base. Gonna go ahead and turn on phasing mode. Alright, we got a little power circle there. Select the warp gates with this snazzy button. Alright, let's warp in a sentry and a stalker. Check it out. We now have units. They are pretty cool. And they now have nothing to do as they are stuck in an empty base. But if there was a base here, let's say we had 6 warp gates, we can bring in 6 stalkers or whatever unit combination you want to bring in. Go ahead and you'll be 2 seconds away from the enemy mineral line. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and tell these guys to patrol around. They're not really going to have any more purpose here. So I'm going to go ahead and select a probe and build a robotics bay. You will see that we do have a few more buildings that we are able to build now. Also, we have the fleet beacon. Go ahead and drop that. And the Templar Archives, going to go ahead and drop that. That functions very similar to the Templar Archives in StarCraft 1, so that should be kind of recognizable. While that is building, I'm going to go ahead and review the Immortal here. Like I said, this is one of my favorite units. It is new to StarCraft 2. It's kind of a heavy-hitting, heavily shielded mech unit. Works a little bit like a Dragoon. Looks a little bit like one, too. Its special ability is called Hardened Shield. It reduces incoming damage to a maximum of 10 while the Immortal has shields. So when the shields drop down to 0, this functionality is no longer functional. So definitely something you want to watch out for when you're using these. These units are also very easily swarmed and taken down by light units such as Zerglings. So gotta watch out for that. However, they really shine. Let's say the enemy has a whole bunch of siege tanks or something. Those heavy-hitting siege shots are only going to do 10 damage to the Immortal while he still has shields. So that is a good time when you would want to use those. And I will just go ahead and park this here as he has made some friends over there beside that bush. Now that these buildings are done warping in, I will go ahead and give a brief explanation as to their functionality here. You've got this giant planetary globe thingy here kind of hanging out. This is the fleet beacon. This is going to go ahead and contain upgrades for the Void Ray and the carrier. So we're going to go ahead and increase the speed and acceleration of the Void Ray. And this kind of makes the carrier's launch interceptors more quickly. You know, I haven't really done any sort of analysis to determine whether or not, you know, it's a substantial upgrade, this carrier one. But I'm going to go ahead and research it anyways, just because I have a ton of money and I have nothing better to spend it on. The Robotics Facility contains upgrades for the units that you built from the Robotics, or the Robotics Bay has the upgrades for the facility. Yes, that's a little bit confusing. This increases the movement of the observers, the warp prisms, and also increases the range of the Colossus weapon. So I will go ahead and get that, and I will transfer over here to the facility where we now have access to the Colossus. This is kind of the heavy assault unit for the Protoss, and I'm going to go ahead and let one of these build and send it right over here. And it does take a while to build, so I'm going to go ahead and chrono boost that up. And also, I have selected my Nexus now, and since we have built a fleet beacon, we now have access to the mothership. Going to go ahead and get one of those going. They actually take a ridiculously long time to build, so I'm going to go ahead and send the rally point over there, chrono boost that up. Chrono boost that one more time. You'll see, like I said earlier, there is an energy bar for the Nexus. It does tick up fairly quickly, has a maximum of 100 energy. Each chrono boost does cost 25 energy, so you'll need to kind of manage it there. The nice thing is the more Nexus you have, the more kind of chrono boost that you can do. So if you've got 2 or 3 expansions, you may want to hotkey your Nexus to, let's say, 5 or whatever, and then you can keep pressing C, click, C, click, C, click, and I'm just going to go ahead and select all these buildings here, and you'll see that now I've spent them all down, and now we have a whole bunch of useless chrono boosts that just look really cool. So I'm sure that you can use your imagination and see the potential for the use of the chrono boost. And it looks like now our Colossus is done. This unit is pretty unique in the Protoss arsenal in that A, it can go up and down cliffs, as you can see, and B, it has a ridiculously long attack when you have the thermal lance upgrade. This unit is very good for frying light units, such as waves of Zerglings, Marines, Hydralisks. Pretty much anything classified with light armor can just get toasted by the Colossus. One thing you need to watch out for is that the Colossus can actually be attacked by air units. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Phoenix here, who is a air attacking only unit, and I'm going to try to attack the Stalker. You see I cannot, as these red annoying messages will tell you. However, I can select the Colossus, and it starts attacking it. So that's something you have to watch out for when you make a whole bunch of Colossus. You want to make sure you are scouting the enemy a lot with your observers, and make sure they are not getting massive amounts of Corruptors or Vikings or anything that is good versus air. So as this mothership kind of flies in and asks where the party is at, I am just going to go ahead and select it and go ahead and give its introduction. This is kind of the top-end unit for Protoss. I call it top-end not because it's kind of the ultimate unit. I call it top-end because it's the most difficult one to get, as it takes forever to build, requires a whole bunch of tech. And, you know, its functionality is debatable. It kind of provides a cloaking field, just like the Arbiter from Starcraft 1. It's relatively weak. It's a lot more weak than you would think it would be. For a unit that takes so much effort to get. You really won't see these too much when playing, you know, your average Starcraft 2 games. They do have 2 abilities here, both of which are off limits to me, as its energy is not quite up to where it needs to be. The first one is Mass Recall. It works just like the Arbiter from StarCraft 1, teleports all units owned by the player in the targeted area to the mothership, which we'll do in just a little bit. It also has the Vortex ability, which kind of creates a black hole, basically. I'll actually select, find a couple units here. These probes. These probes aren't doing anything. These probes are having an extended lunch break, and I'm going to go ahead and use them as examples. I really don't think they carry there. So Vortex, going to go ahead and left click that, put it right over the probes, and there's no more probes. What happens is the units get sucked into the Vortex and stay there for the duration of the cast. You'll see that nothing is able to get out of the Vortex. Now what happens is when the Vortex is over,